land, I wish to enthusiastically fight for the stability and peace of my country and my sub-region. I want to live free, proud, and in dignity. Another account, I am a soldier from Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, or a volunteer for the defense of the homeland, a husband, a mother, a son. I took an oath to defend my homeland, and I will sacrifice myself on the battlefield to protect my co-citizens against all danger. I wish to live free, proud, and in dignity. I am contributing to the development of my sub-region. Mr. President, these aspirations are the beacons which guide my government's action. The struggle of that government is to create a society in which the men and women of the Sahel can live free, proud, and in dignity. The theme of our session is one we highly appreciate because it is so relevant. In reality, it unveils a concern as crucial and long-standing as the United Nations itself, a theme which is tackled by almost all of the debates that occur here. What the theme really conveys is that now we're no longer simply thinking about what to do or how to do it. What we need to do now is give life to our speeches through tangible actions. We must go beyond words and finally take action to usher in a fairer world rid of prejudice and stereotypes which seek to treat certain peoples or certain parts of the planet as second class. Treat them as people doomed to wait in the prisons of isolation and scorn, waiting for handouts, living at the mercy and whims of great powers that claim to be the only ones able to indicate the path that others must follow, and they dictate how others must live. We must focus our efforts on the common goals of our organization. An organization whose primary goal is to promote the well-being of peoples by guaranteeing that they can live in peace and security. This urgent and overriding need to build a new world together and work together to create a fairer world is entirely valid in the current context. A context dominated by protracted crises, complex conflicts, and unequal economic governance, which further divides states and exacerbates differences between people. The consequences of such division are human tragedy. This disastrous state of affairs is the result of a multilateralism standing at a crossroads, a multilateralism which is exhausted, a multilateralism whose reputation has been muted time and time again by predatory actions by certain member states who have decided that they are the masters of the world, and as such, they've built their foreign policy on subjugating and exploiting other states. We need to be properly concerned by this issue because the harmony and the cohesion of our world is at stake. For that reason, Burkina Faso would like to take this opportunity to once again appeal to reason, to the wisdom of all of us. We'd like to appeal to the powers of our world to prioritize an inclusive global governance, which is rid of hegemonizing visions. And if we can do that, the UN's glory will once again be restored. Mr. President, restoring the integrity of our territory by ensuring our people can live safe and enjoy their property, remodeling political, administrative, economic, and financial governance so that they can further the ambitions is one of our people can further their ambitions is one of our goals. We also need to usher in reforms and development initiatives which will lead to shared prosperity and economic and social progress which is sustainable. These are all areas of focus of our president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré. And with his leadership and far-sightedness, we shall prevail. The people of Burkina Faso has decided to affirm and embrace its sovereignty, putting an end to its subjugation. It has demonstrated extraordinary resilience, just as all the people of the Sahel have done. They have understood the importance and magnitude of our struggle, and as such have joined the ranks of our defence and security forces. With this tireless support, thanks to patriotism, the genius, the bravery, and the spirit of sacrifice of the sons and daughters of Burkina Faso, our country has notched up success we couldn't even have hoped for. We've also had significant successes in our committed fight against terrorists instrumentalized, deployed from a distance, and financed by neo-colonial powers. Here I wish to pay a much-deserved tribute to civilians and members of our military who have fallen on the battlefield, and I bow down before their memory. Mr. President, we're seeing strategic reforms and visionary reforms where our troops are concerned. We've built their capacity, we've reorganized our fighting forces on the ground, and in so doing, we've increased our means of our resources to act, and that has been our salvation, because ultimately we have won back all of the areas that were overrun by criminals and their allies. Turning now to statistics, almost 70% of our territory is now under state control. That compares to 40% in 2022. That turning tide has allowed displaced persons to return. Schools have been able to reopen in less than 2 years. Our taking back of our territory has allowed more than 700,000 people to return to their villages. That action has allowed almost 1,500 schools to reopen their doors, offering the opportunity to so many pupils to return to school and continue their studies. They've long yearned for that time to come. These results compel admiration and spark great hope. They've been made possible by the endeavours of our defence and security forces, by the patriotic commitment of our volunteers for the defence of the homeland, and by the staunch support of the diaspora and the outpouring of solidarity they've showed. This patriotic mobilization of all of our society has allowed us to collect some 99 billion CFA, that is $165 million, in 2023 alone. That far exceeded initial estimates. In other words, you can see here, at this very moment, we are notching up successes in our offensive against obscurantist forces, against the acolytes that have a questionable, shady reputation. At the same time, we're seeing that we are the victims of a defamation and smear campaign being waged against our soldiers. They are being accused of violating human rights without the slightest smidge of evidence being brought forward. This propaganda has been cobbled together and aims to lower the morale of Burkinabe patriots and to sabotage their legitimate struggles. And that's happening quite simply because the acolytes of chaos have not yet understood the dynamic underway. They haven't yet understood our desire to free ourselves of all paternalism and condescending guardianships. My country would like to take this opportunity to convey its deep gratitude to all countries and sincere partners who have supported us in our glorious journey towards inclusive social and economic development. Here, I'd like to invite all UN member states to pay no heed whatsoever to this media smear campaign, which, and this is patently clear, is none other than the expression of the distress of terrorists and their sponsors, because they have been thwarted. I'd also like to reassure you of the professionalism and stellar conduct of our defence and security forces. That has been demonstrated through their participation in peacekeeping operations and recognised time and time again at this very podium. The ongoing training and examination of our defence and security forces and volunteers in international humanitarian law guarantee that our professional conduct is unimpeachable when it comes to respecting human rights. Mr. President, we all seem to agree that we need to combat international terrorism. And as such, my country is deeply concerned by the support which state entities seem to be granting to terrorists. This sponsoring is something we have decried time and time again. Some people say that it's a simple matter of perspective, but this sponsoring has been brought before the eyes of the world recently through the paradoxical attitude shown by Ukraine, a member state of our organization. Indeed, Ukraine has unambiguously confirmed its involvement in the terrorist attacks which claimed the lives of members of the Malian Defense and Security Forces in Tizawaten in Mali last July. Ukraine has confessed that it supports international terrorism, particularly in the Sahel, and as such, this country has shone a light on the subversive activities it wages in the Sahel, following in the footsteps of other states who have made betrayal their bread and butter. We reiterate our staunch condemnation of these acts of aggression and this apology for terrorism, which violate the United Nations Charter and the relevant international conventions. These particularly serious events reveal desires and whims which have time and time again peppered the history of our continent: balkanization, the killing of leaders, interference in the domestic policies of African states, and with the ultimate aim of getting hands on our resources. What means to achieve these nefarious ends range from the manipulation of national leaders and regional and sub-regional organizations, the waging of proxy wars, as is the case in Sahel and Ukraine, and other countries financing and arming terrorists with total impunity. I am vindicated in this interpretation by the worrying proliferation of military bases in our sub-region. And this interpretation also explains how it is that criminal gangs are coming into possession of sophisticated weapons, that this is a new type of terrorism, and as such, the stability and very foundations of our states and our organizations are imperiled. So we need to resolute action. Turning now to the Ukrainian aggression, and in light of it, the countries of the Confederation of Sahel States already referred this matter to the Security Council. We did so on the 20th of August, and we await an unequivocal response. Mr. President, there is a need to ensure security in Sahel. As such, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger took the sovereign decision on the 16th of September 2023 through the Lipto-Gourma Charter to create the Alliance of Sahel States. This is a military alliance. It is a military alliance for collective defense and mutual assistance to combat terrorism and organized crime across our territory. To also appropriately address the complex challenges of development, the countries of the Alliance of Sahel States, the AES, have decided to extend their cooperation to other key areas. It was with this in mind that in Niamey in Niger, on the 6th of July 2024, we held the first summit of the heads of state of the AES. Following this historic summit, Their Excellencies Captain Ibrahim Traoré, President of Burkina Faso, Colonel Assimi Goïta, President of the Transition, Head of State of Mali, and Brigadier General Abdourahmane Tiani, President of the National Council for the Protection of the Fatherland, Head of State of Niger, adopted the treaty creating the Confederation of Sahel States, the aforementioned AES. The enthusiasm sparked by the creation of the AES can be explained by the fact that sub-regional institutions and mechanisms have proven unable to respond to the legitimate security concerns harbored by our people. The creation of this organization will be our salvation, and its primary aim is to protect the people of the Sahel, who've already been dealt such a heavy blow by the security and humanitarian crises. Deadly measures have already been taken by others to exacerbate their suffering in this regard, and that's why they place such hope in the AES. This session calls upon us to leave no one behind, and nevertheless, the international arena, alas, remains marked by increasingly rife tensions which seriously threaten peace and security, and the UN is standing impotently by. We've always called for diplomacy to prevail in order to peacefully resolve disputes. We remain convinced that by ensuring that the spirit of the UN Charter prevails, we will manage to extinguish the flames of tension wherever they occur and however fervently they may burn in Africa, Europe, Middle East, Asia, or America. With this in mind, in the vein of the United Nations Charter, Burkina Faso reiterates its support for the political process underway in Western Sahara, led under the aegis of the UN Secretary General, with a view to reaching a mutually acceptable and negotiated solution as recommended by the relevant resolutions of the Security Council. In the Middle East, Burkina Faso reaffirms its solidarity with the Palestinian people that are in the midst of an unprecedented tragedy. The two-state solution, having Israel and Palestine living side by side with good neighborly relations, remains the only objective alternative that Burkina Faso continues to support. We accept Palestine as a member state of this organization, and that stance is a natural continuation of our beliefs. There is unspeakable suffering being visited upon the most vulnerable peoples by unilateral coercive measures which are imposed by states. These must be forbidden if we wish to give real meaning to and achieve the goals of this current session. Consequently, we call for the immediate lifting of economic, commercial, and financial sanctions imposed upon certain states. The only thing these states have done wrong is seek freedom for their peoples. That's the case of Cuba. It's also the case for the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, Nicaragua, Iran, and many other countries. Turning to development issues, Burkina Faso wishes to recall that however worthy they may be, development initiatives taken here by the United Nations will have no chance of succeeding if everyone does not get involved and show good faith. In terms of our organization's reform, it is time for the African continent to fully participate in the UN Security Council in accordance with the African position reflected in the consensus agreements that produce that position. Giving Africa its rightful place would cement the universal nature of the UN and repair the historic injustice which continues to be done to Africa. Mr. President, to conclude, I wish to make it clear that Burkina Faso has deep faith in the UN. However, this organization must take action with full respect for the sovereignty of member states, for their strategic choices and their fundamental interests. In the Sahel, we're seeing renewal and hope burn bright, and that has been born of the AES Confederation. We remain convinced that this new sub-regional community, which is not taking aim at any country or any people, can contribute, working together with sincere partners to move forward without any hypocrisy and fight against terrorism and insecurity in the Sahel. May God bless Burkina Faso. May God bless the AES Confederation. May God bless Africa. Fatherland or death, we will prevail.
I thank the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Regional Cooperation, and Burkinabe abroad of Burkina Faso.
Okay. I hope you found that informative. I hope you found that very, very informative. And the reason why we are playing that is because we wanted you to know what has been done. It is clear from that video that there is a concerted effort by the Western powers to dim the light of the AES Confederation, to make it difficult, to not make it. Oh, hold on. Somebody echoing? Okay, 1 second. Anybody's. Oh, is it echoing? Where is the echo? Is it echoing? Hello. Is it echoing? Okay. All right. Can you. Is it better now? Is that better now? It's not echoing. Okay. Okay. Is it better now? Is it echoing still? Let me know if it's echoing. Is it better? Okay. All right. We're trying to adjust it, so I beg your pardon if the noise is a bit loud. Yeah. So I guess what we're saying is this. Let me just bring that down. What we're saying is that you can hear from that video that there is a concerted effort to make sure that AES never succeeds. They failed and will continue. And that is why we're doing programs like this. You will not get information such as we're playing now on here. AES, they have claimed back, Burkina Faso have got back 70% of their land. Back in 2022, apparently, their control of their land was reduced to 40%. They've gotten 70%. These are real issues. We cannot ignore this. Anybody telling you to ignore AES and support ECOWAS and support African Union that are not working for Africans, it doesn't make any sense. It really does not make any sense whatsoever. We need to press forward in supporting Ibrahim Traore of Burkina Faso, Assimi Goïta of Mali, General Chiani of Niger. We must support them because they are fighting, they are standing up for Africans. They are standing up for, they are the voice for the voiceless. They are working for we Africans collectively. And it is important that we never ever relent. So I wanted to play that, and you can watch it again. I'm going to play it. I'm going to actually put a section up for it to actually play that in its entirety, because we need this kind of information. You will not get this, but you can absolutely. You will not get this kind of information anywhere else because they don't want you to know the progress. Children are able to go back to school because they got back 70% of their land. They are beginning to feel people are contributing. People donated $165 million in Burkina Faso for their government. What more evidence do we need as Africans? This is the kind of leadership we need. African Union is not working for Africans. Let me show you this picture. African Union is working for colonials. I'll show you this picture again to remember. You see, let me go and zoom in here. If you look in there, the African Union went to meeting in the EU. And look at the people who are in the meetings. Majority of them are Europeans in Europe. Please, I want to know, is the problem that Africans have faced, is it in Europe or is it in Africa? And if it is in Africa, what are they doing in Europe? What are they doing in Europe? African Union is not working for Africans. But look at AES Confederation. Look at AES Confederation. These leaders, they hardly leave their continent. They are fighting they are working for their people. They are staying in there and building for their people. It makes sense. This is not about hate, please. A lot of people seem to think when I'm talking about, I support AES, I'm just passionate. Look at their antecedents. Look at what they are achieving. Listen to what they were reeling out in that report. I mean, it's within 2 years. Within 2 years, they have made a change. You're right, Bantu Queen. They are afraid. Within 2 years, the AES Confederation have made an astonishing change that the people, please remember that France is part of the UN. France is part of the 3 permanent members of the UN. And as a member of the UN, they are in control. They were running and controlling 14 African countries. And in those 14 countries, in the Sahel alone, they were overseeing the unsettling and dismantling and displacement of people. France, a security member, a permanent security member. Now, when they removed France, the permanent security member of the UN, from those 3 countries, they started doing better. Please, this is not about hate. I just want you to, I want those who are supporting, if you are coming out to support ECOWAS and African Union, what, yes, France ran, well, they are in charge of, yes, they are in charge through ECOWAS. They were controlling Africa, African through ECOWAS, yes. Exactly, there's nothing without Africa. So please, when we are saying this, every African watching this, please be real with yourself. This is clear, indisputable evidence in other countries. The displacement of people meant that those countries were able, Burkina Faso was able to control only 50% of its territory. Now that Burkina Faso is being controlled by Ibrahim Traoré and Burkinabe, they control 70% of their own territory. It makes sense that Africans should support them. That is a success by any measure. So when I come on this platform and we're talking about this, it's to raise awareness. It's to make us know that we have the power to make this change, and we mustn't support. We must support France and all of that on the African continent. We are not. When Europe has a problem, Europe solves their own problem. When Europe has a problem in Europe, they never call Africa to come and solve their problem. So why are these African puppet leaders going to Europe? Thank you, Batukwin. Thank you. Thank you. So I wanted to just state that. Let me bring in Algie Royal. Let's hear from you. What on your thoughts on what I just said? Let's hear your thoughts, and I'll go to Linda. Then I'll bring Vanna May back. Go ahead.
Ok. Bonjour à tout le monde. J'espère que vous pouvez traduire le message. Voilà. Ok, ok. Et merci en tout cas de savoir que au-delà, c'est-à-dire du Burkina Faso, du Mali, du Niger, des pays francophones, il y a des fils dignes de l'Afrique qui supportent en tout cas cette noble lutte.
Wow.
Parce que vous voyez, ce qu'on nous fait comprendre, les médias occidentaux, ce qu'ils nous font comprendre, ils nous font comprendre que rien ne va, c'est-à-dire dans les pays du Sahel. Ils peignent les pays du Sahel en rouge, ils transforment les pays du Sahel en ce qu'ils veulent, pour pouvoir en tout cas faire comprendre à l'opinion internationale que ce qu'ils disent c'est vrai. Or, autant nous vivons dans ces pays, nous savons les réalités. Avant que Ibrahim Traoré ne vienne au pouvoir, au temps de Roch Kaboré, c'est-à-dire que les partis du Burkina Faso, le Burkina était presque encerclé. Je vous jure, le Burkina était presque encerclé. Et ces personnes, sincèrement, ils sont venus. Et voici ce qu'a dit le ministre. Nous avons pu recouvrir plus de 70% de notre territoire. Et c'est ça la vérité. Et donc, sincèrement, de vous, les frères des pays anglophones, merci pour l'effort que vous faites en traduisant en tout cas les discours de tout ce qui se passe par la voix officielle de tous ces différents pays afin de connaître la vérité. Ils sont en train de nous faire la guerre, certes. Mais nous savons que avec cette dynamique des trois présidents, comme toi-même tu as su le dire ici tout de suite, Goïta, Ibrahim Traoré et puis Tiani, nous sommes sur la bonne voie. Et croyez-nous, en tout cas, nous allons relever le défi. Parce qu'ils font tout pour nous faire la guerre. Regardez ce qui s'est passé à Tinzaouatine au Mali. Ils sont venus. Et comment est-ce que vous comprenez que des pays européens peuvent revendiquer une attaque sur le sol africain sans que l'ONU ne condamne, sans que la CEDEAO ne condamne, sans que l'Union africaine ne condamne? C'est l'exemple palpable que vous avez montré à votre droite. Ils travaillent pour les pays occidentaux, ces unions africaines-là. Ils travaillent pour les colons, ils travaillent pour les blancs. Et donc, sincèrement dit, merci encore. J'étais édifié, franchement, malgré que je ne comprends pas bien l'anglais. Au fait, quand on écrit, je peux lire. Mais, à force de parler, là, je ne peux pas. Mais quand je vis ça, j'ai dit, waouh, vraiment, la révolution est en marche. Vive l'Afrique, vive tous les pays anglophones, vive tous les pays francophones. La patrie ou la mort, nous vaincrons. Merci.
Wow.
Merci, Aigle Royal. Merci de votre contribution.
Wow.
Moi, sinon, ça fait longtemps que j'ai partagé la page avec beaucoup. Hein. Il est à Londres et il participe. Il ne fait que la guerre avec nous. Depuis longtemps, moi, je le suivais. Hein,
Wow. Wow.
Donc, Citizen AY, c'est un grand leader qui est à UK et il participe, il est en train de faire la lutte. Il apprécie Traoré, il apprécie Assimi Koïta pour le boulot. Il a Assimi, comment ça s'appelle, Chani. Vraiment, il est toujours dans la lutte, Aigle Royal. Mais moi, je participe tous les jours. Mais j'ai essayé d'amener les quelques-uns qui comprennent l'anglais. Mais je sais que, tu sais, le français prend dessus. Mais moi, comme je parle anglais et français en même temps, donc j'arrive à participer de partout. Donc vraiment, la lutte continue, on est ensemble.
Voilà, Marcel, il faut traduire un peu.
Wow.
Tu peux demander, voilà, à ce que tu traduis ce que j'ai dit pour.
Oui, je vais traduire un peu. J'étais en train de conduire quand je vous ai vu monter. Okay,
okay.
Brother Citizen AY.
Yes.
This is a brother called Aigle Royal. So he is one of our leader also from the AES. Yes, and he is the one of the when he has his own live sometime going on. He was talking about at one point.
Go ahead.
He was talking about at one point his country, which is Burkina Faso, was on about 70% of the land by the terrorists. But when Ibrahim Traoré came to the power, they were able to recoup all of the land back to them. And that's what we wanted. So at this point, there's nothing we can say about Ibrahim Traoré. We just want to thank him because the schools are going back. Everything is going great. Every day, there is a company that